Hello there and welcome back to another video. This week we're going to be doing episode 4 of my fandom series, and we're going to be covering Star Wars. So I have a lot of things to say about Star Wars. There's going to be a lot of things to unpack in this episode, but let's just start it simple about how I sort of found Star Wars or got into Star Wars. So I've said before that I have an older brother, so because my brother's 5 years older than me and he's, a lad, I kind of watched Star Wars before I even noticed what it was. He made me sit and watch it with him at one point or another. Same thing with Lord of the Rings, same thing with a couple other things that I can't really remember, but I'd seen them start to finish before I was really aware of what it was. But it was sort of like a pain. I really didn't want to, but it was sort of, well, bro says I have to, so I have to. Woe is me, this sucks. But then in return I would sort of try to make him play Barbies with me or something, but that didn't really work out in my favour actually, because he always gets what he wants, and being the younger sibling I just had to put up with it. We're older now, I usually get my way. But so I'd watch Star Wars start to finish without really liking it much, especially because I was of the generation where the prequel trilogy was what was hot, was what when we were younger my brother liked. And now that he's older, his opinions have changed, so I'm not really going to speak much of his opinions, but the shiny thing was the prequels, and especially Phantom Menace with all the politics stuff that I really, really didn't get. And then the Attack of the Clones with all this mystery and sneaking around and stuff like that. I don't know, it was just I didn't enjoy it much, the sci-fi stuff. It felt kind of drawn out and boring at that point. But then, so when I was 11 till 15, I had a neighbour that ended up being family to me, so that their son was a little brother to me. He was only a couple months younger, and the parents were an aunt and uncle to me. So the son, my friend, he was really into Star Wars, and he also was really into Lego Star Wars. So he had all these Lego Star Wars builds. He had in his the guest room, actually, there was this recreation of the Battle of Kashyyyk, all done in Lego Star Wars, and it would be constantly moving. And I was really close to this family, right? So I would just go over to their house whenever. I stepped on so many Legos in that place. But so because I started learning more about the details of Star Wars from him, because he was really into it, and he sort of made it more digestible than just the films, because he liked more he liked the films, of course, but there's video games, there's the comics, there's the Clone Wars. This was way back when we only had one Clone Wars cartoon. I know that now there's a million of them, but I watched that one and I kind of enjoyed it. And then I started just learning more about the character names and the differences, and the more I learned about it, the more I sort of enjoyed it. I watched him play the Lego Star Wars of episode 3 start to finish. This was before Let's Plays were a thing, so I was literally in his living room watching him play, and that was sort of a precursor. I fairly much enjoy watching Let's Plays. So yeah, I sort of started liking Star Wars more through this neighbour friend of mine. And then when I tried to rewatch, the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy start to finish after that, I was this is kind of interesting. So yeah, I was fond of Star Wars, but I wasn't really into Star Wars as a kid, even though I had vivid memories of waiting to see episode 3 come out in theaters. I also remember how hyped my brother was when episode 2 first came out. He watched it over and over and over again. But in my early childhood and my early introduction to Star Wars, there wasn't much of the original trilogy in my experience, just because of the age that I was at the time and how old my brother was. If my dad had been the big Star Wars fan, it would have been a lot more original trilogy centric, but because it was mostly my brother and my neighbour and we were younger, it was the prequel trilogy. So fast forward a couple years, this is following a similar theme to last episode, which was Harry Potter, where I grew to love the original content a lot, but I sort of just left it be. I think it was when I was around 16 or 17 that I started trying to, I was looking for stories to read. I didn't really feel like reading anything Naruto. I'd kind of exhausted myself of too much Harry Potter, so I was let's try to look into something else. So what's a thing that's a thing? And then I was just clicking through the categories on fanfiction.net, and I saw that the biggest fandom for the subcategory of films was Star Wars. Surprise, surprise. So This was like 4 or 5 years ago, and yeah, so I just started looking through stories, and then I just really found something I liked, and I got really connected to it, and then I decided to give this was like right as the new Clone Wars type of contents was starting to come out, so I started to give those a shot. I read a couple like comics about it, but the comics, and this was just before Disney, or just as, because I think the first thing that Disney did were the Clone Wars cartoons once they acquired Star Wars, but this was way before. Like, they'd only just started talking about episode 7, 8, 9. But so yeah, like I found some good fanfics, and I'm going to put my favourites in the description if you want to look at them for Star Wars. And this is the point where I might lose any of you that are actual Star Wars fans, because I want to talk about the sequel trilogy. Well, right now there's only 2 of them, right? But so I was so hyped for the sequels for Force Awakens. I went to see it on the premiere night in the town that I lived in at the time, and I dragged all my friends with me, and then I just watched it, and I was like really happy about it, but I was really happy about it because I just saw all these things. I was like, oh, New Hope, oh, this is from A New Hope, oh, this is just like in A New Hope. And then I never had even the slightest inclination to ever watch it again. Like, I've only seen The Force Awakens once, and I've never wanted to watch it again. And I don't know how that happened, because I enjoyed it the first time I watched it, but I was just like, I mean, I remember everything that happened, but I might as well just watch A New Hope. And let it be known, I love the original trilogy, but A New Hope is it drags on a bit. It's kind of long and has stretches where not much happens and it's a bit slow, but I love it. But I would still pick watching A New Hope that's slow and drags on over the beautifully produced, really sort of well-paced Force Awakens. So it's just sort of like I forgot about it. Rogue One was also kind of boring at first until like Vader comes in. Like, my favourite part's when Vader comes in, basically, and that was really cool. But yeah, Rogue One, like, I don't have anything against Rogue One, but I don't love Rogue One either. I haven't seen the Solo movie, but yeah, I'm part of that huge half of the internet that oops, I should bleep that. You can tell I'm passionate about this, that just really kind of gave up on the new Star Wars after the Last Jedi came out. And I've argued with my brother to death over this, because he loved it and I hated it, so we're both on the side of the spectrum. Because, right, my view of this is that basically the new trilogy is a fanfic. I might have lost a lot of you, but like, listen, it's a fanfic because it was not written by George Lucas. Even what's his face that plays Luke, Mark Hamill, he said that this version of the sequels for Luke is not the Luke that George Lucas had written to be, like the Luke that happened after, or the Luke that Luke became after Episode 6. So it's a fanfic. It's not written by the original creator. It's just taking the characters, taking the universe, and adding new characters and making it. It's a fanfic that just has a big budget. And this is also like it connects to like this whole other opinion. I might make a video about this, about like the stigma surrounding fanfiction, when there really shouldn't, because a lot of popular media has nothing to differentiate it from fanfiction except for the budget and the rights. But like, the thing is that it's just like they got lucky. Look at the draw. It's not because it's genuinely good content. It's not like, oh, your content is the best, you get the rights. No, it's just you have the money, you have the connections there, you get the rights, you get to make the content. Anyway, it's just bad fanfiction. Like, it's really bad fanfiction, because like, the thing is, there's a couple different, like, and I read this post on Tumblr, there's a couple different sort of styles of fanfiction. There's like the fanfiction that's a love letter to the original. There's the fanfiction that just fixes everything wrong with the original. There's the fanfiction that's a giant FU to the original and just changes everything. And then there's a fanfiction that's just very derivative of the original, so it either takes just the characters or just the world and it just does something completely different. And like, there's these styles, and I feel like the style of writing for especially The Last Jedi is just the kind that says FU to all the original, and I just really can't stand behind that, because it's a lot of the things that happened in the original that made me love it. So it's sort of like, it's not canon to me, the new stuff. It's really not. I don't think like, even I was telling a friend of mine that had never seen Star Wars, I was telling him, no, alright, you get through A New Hope by yourself and I will watch the rest of them with you, and we're going to do it in the machete order. So the machete order is when you do episode 4, 5, and then 2, 3, and then 6, so that you get like kind of both stories, and then it's like, anyway, you can Google it. It's called the Star Wars Machete Order, and it's a really cool way to just watch the originals and the prequels to get a really good story out of it. The only thing that sacrifices a couple plot twists don't have as much punch to them. I think it's the sibling the sibling reveal, because Luke and Leia are siblings, and that's revealed in episode 6, but you'd get the reveal in episode 3 if you watched it in the machete order. But I think it's the same sort of effect. Anyway, yeah, like I was telling them I watched, and then I just completely, and I wasn't even trying, and this was even before the Last Jedi came out. I just completely forgot that the sequels were a thing, because they're not my Star Wars, and you can fight me about it. You're not really going to change my mind, I'm sorry, but yeah, that's just my thought. I ended up going on a bit of a rant. Most of the video is over now. I don't know what else I want to talk about. My favourite character is Luke. I really like Obi-Wan as well. I decided to draw Luke and Leia because I just figured they'd be the most accessible, and I haven't drawn them before, and I had a lot of fun doing the galaxy background. I'm really happy with the way that came out. Lightsaber, I was debating between picking Anakin's old lightsaber and doing it blue, but then I figured that the green would look better against the pink little cloudy clouds in the background, so I drew Luke's lightsaber. One of the fondest memories that I have of being a Star Wars fan is just choreographing lightsaber fights with that neighbour friend of mine. We used to have the lightsaber toys, right, and we just actually genuinely step-by-step planned, coordinated and rehearsed lightsaber fights. It was such a good time. And what else? Yeah, most of the fanfics in my description that you should check out, none of them have any of the new characters, sorry, because I'm not really like looking for those, and I haven't read it. If you have any good fanfic recommendations of the new stuff, like, I'll give them a shot. But yeah, the ones in my description are mostly either Luke, Leia, Vader centric, or prequel stuff, or a lot of time travel stuff. I've read a lot of time travel stories that I really, really enjoy for Star Wars. And yeah, this painting was a lot of fun. I had a lot of trouble with Leia's face for some reason, and I also had some trouble with her space buns. I really, really, really fell in love with the way that I drew Luke's face, and like, it's just, I was telling my friend about it, it's like the chin dimple, like I don't know if you saw back in the video, but I just like slapped in the first go really quickly. I wasn't really thinking, like, I had pictures of Luke and Leia just on the side on my phone to look at for reference, but I just did the little chin dimple, and then I just had to stop and look at it and go like, that chin dimple though. What else? I did overpainting on this. I could have overpainted it more. There's still a bunch of places that are kind of sloppy, I guess you would say, but at the same time, when you zoom out, you can't really tell. I didn't really try too hard to make that blaster look like a blaster. You can just imagine it's a blaster, but at the same time, like, the contrast is sort of wrong, because it's a very dark looking blaster on a dark looking sky background, so you can just, let your imagination fill the blanks that it's a very detailed, amazing, powerful looking blaster. What else can I say? Like, I really like Star Wars, so much so that for a couple friends of mine, when The Force Awakens was almost out, it wasn't quite out yet, so I wasn't like feeling conflicted about it. Like, just 3 separate friends on completely separate occasions gave me Star Wars based gifts, just because, like, I really like Star Wars. So I got these like popsicle makers that were like lightsabers, and then I got one of those little aluminium models that you could build. I got it of R2-D2. I built it. Did it come out very nice? I had to use tape to hold R2-D2 to his feet, but I was happy with it. It was a good 3 hours worth of trying to do something new. What else can I say? I really like the concept of the Force, and I really like just the idea of this religion being so pacifist, and like, it's the pacifism is so integral. But then I also really like the idea of like changing the Jedi code. I also really like, I haven't really played many video games. The only video games that I played for Star Wars, or like, I haven't played The New Order or Battlefield. Is it Battlefield? Battlefront? There's the big MMO Star Wars thing. I haven't really played them, but I do like reading fanfics that involve characters from the old order, because it's cool. And like the Sith being a cult. I don't know, it's just a really interesting universe that I really like, ignoring the sequels, because they don't build anything, they just destroy everything. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you watch the other episodes in my fandom series. I've done episode 1 was Dragon Ball Z, episode 2 was Naruto, episode 3 was Harry Potter, now we're on episode 4 Star Wars. There'll be a link in the card for the playlist, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, tell me what you think, and I'll see you all next week.